How is it already sticky? You haven't even done anything.
I opened the caramel sauce and I had to use a knife because the whole tab
Now I
didn't work.
understand.
Hey everybody, welcome to Literary Lushes with your host Samantha.
And Megan.
And today we are joined by Bradley Sides, author of In the Hollows, which is a short story, part of a larger book called These Fantastic Lives. Welcome, Bradley.
Hi.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
It was a very Megan-tastic
And Samsational.
short story. I enjoyed it a lot.
Me too. But before we get too far,
Okay.
let's give everybody a quick overview of the drink.
Okay.
We are going to be making the drink while we talk to Bradley about his story. If you guys want the full recipe, please check out our Patreon page. So do you want to tell them about the drink?
It is a apple cider spiced martini. It's got caramel, however you want to say it, and then cinnamon. And the vodka we're using is caramel vodka.
Which comes in a mini bottle. Fun
Yes,
fact.
so you don't have to buy the big bottles if you don't plan on drinking it
Or
all
if
the
it
time.
tastes like trash, because we actually haven't
We haven't tried it yet.
tested
So
this
this is
at all,
going to be fun.
Bradley. So. All right. Well, let's get started.
I thought that moved, and I was like, okay.
So, Bradley, the In the Hollows book, I mean, it kind of grabs you right from the first line, I thought. How they talk about, Walt is saying that they shouldn't leave hallowed ground
Yeah.
because of his mom, and then the book is called In the Hollow. So I'm like, hollow and hallow.
Yes.
That's fun.
Yeah. And confusing, I guess.
But also, I would have to imagine that was also mildly intentional to kind of tie the two together, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I thought it gave a double play to kind of the title as well as what else happening in the story.
I'm going to say no spoilers possibly coming up. But you really should read the book. It was so good. As I was reading it, I was like, I'm so glad I have background TV on for noise, because if my house was silent right now while reading this, I would be having a panic. Which also means in the middle of the night when I'm sleeping and I wake up and it's silent, I'm going to be freaking out. So thank you for that new nightmare horror stuff that I get to have.
Yeah,
I
you're
told
welcome.
her, I go, it's only a problem if you drop something on a hard floor and it makes no sound, then you should probably just run.
Yeah.
So for everybody who hasn't read the book, shame on you, or the story, shame on you.
I can't wait to read all of those stories.
And now, it was really good. It was really creepy, especially because you're finding out what's going on along with the father. So you kind of get like tidbits of what he's experiencing, and he's more or less a naysayer. But man, when his brother came to visit and he's knocking on the bedroom door and the brother's not opening, I'm like, this isn't going to be good. But I was expecting something far worse than him just leaving.
You did a better.
Yeah.
Well, now it's just going to look cool, I guess, and messy.
That one can be yours.
All right, here we go.
I'm like, ooh, this is all pretty. And then that one's
I got excited.
yeah, I get it. She's talking about the book and just like not paying attention to what she's doing.
Yes,
Happens all the time.
whatever.
I loved how you made such an interesting and scary and emotional story in so little pages.
Mhm.
Like I didn't feel like it needed much more than, like, it was just really like, all right, here we go. Here's the just the whole story. It was like, I don't know if your teachers ever told you about when you read a paper, don't have like diarrhea words, which means like you're just putting words out there just to have words out there. So
Filler words. You have to have like a word limit, and you're like, heretofore, thus.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
intentionally.
So I thought it was just so impactful how, even though it was short, it was just,
it packed a punch.
oh man, I was
Yeah.
also emotional at the end. Like there was a lot going on in that
Yeah.
brief moment. So I think you did.
Thank you. And this is actually, I think, the longest story in the collection, other than one that's in the structure of an email. There's one that's matches it, but this is one of the, by far, the longest stories in the collection. Some of them are just a couple pages, 3 pages, 4 pages. I like to work in small spaces. So
And I was gonna say, is it, I mean, I've never really, I'm not a writer, so I don't know. Is it hard writing a bunch of short stories where you have to come up with new ideas, new characters, new situations? Or I guess, or is it easier, right? Because you know it's a short story, so you can kind of just almost limit it to like one scene if you had to.
it just depends on what I'm working on. I've tried to write novels before, and that didn't go so well. I've written 3 of them and just shoved them away in drawers. They're just wordy, and they don't pack the emotional kind of punch that I want them to. But I feel like with the story, if I kind of limit myself with how much space I have, it makes me really sit and think: Does this need to be there? Does it have to be there? What's the purpose of this being there?
Yeah.
It's just a natural kind of space for me. I think the way I write.
Well, I really enjoyed it. I also like trying to imagine what the hollow looked like,
Oh, yeah.
and I was picturing just a dark, thick, dense forest, where just no light shines because there's so many trees, and then as the book goes on, I'm like, wow, there's no animals. Okay, that's weird. Oh, now you can't even like hear the trees rustling. Okay, that's weird. And it just got creepier and creepier and creepier.
And we're gonna take a mini second break.
This is the one that leaks, isn't it?
I think it is. You can only make one at a time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Mine is,
But it
a
seems like a
mess.
lot. Mine's dripping too. I'm like, good
Yeah,
thing these
but
things are throwaway.
Oh, it's not leaking.
Yay, maybe that's not the one. Maybe it's one of yours.
Or maybe we just threw it right in the trash. I thought the top was gonna fall off.
So anyways, the guardians of the
The guardians or of the Hallow.
They were so cool. Like I was actually bummed. I was like looking around my house to like decorate to match the story a little bit. And I was like, dang, the only thing that I have that looks like a white like dog. I was gonna say it is I have this white stuffed dog. It's like a kid's with a pink bow, and I'm like, oh, that's not gonna work. It's got like floppy ears. I'm like, that's not gonna work. But I was like, man, these things are epic. Like I could just
and that was one of the things I wanted to ask. Is that based on any sort of folklore or mythology, like this idea of these beings guarding hallowed ground?
No, I mean, not consciously at least. I was just really interested in, there's this phrase down south that people oftentimes use about not outgrowing your raisin. And I really kind of thought about that and how home is this trap. And I tried to work with this mythology of it, of what home is in small communities sometimes, and how it can be traps and how it cannot be traps, just depending on, how you look at it. So that's kind of where the mythology came from.
I mean, I liked it.
I did too.
And I also, like, I guess this is a spoiler. I enjoyed that, throughout the book, it's like, here are these creatures, only the son sees it,
Here's it.
it hears it, he sees the tufts of fur, he sees the claw marks. The neighbor who runs a general store is aware of it, the brother is aware of it, the dad is the only one who's
Fighting it as much as he
Yeah.
can, trying to be in denial.
and you think they're these sinister beings, and then at the end
They gently take the boy.
it's very gentle, and then but it was
Peaceful.
also peaceful, but it was also kind of sad because it's like
Yes.
he was the one who didn't want to leave, so
But now he gets to go be with his mom. Like, but I mean, it wasn't as gruesome as it could
It
have
could've.
been. Like, I could have probably been like, well, all right, then that's gonna leave a
Mark.
taste. But I like it wasn't peaceful in the sense like I wasn't like felt like, oh, okay at the end, but it was still not. I don't know. I was happy with the way it happened.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
and it also is a little bit of a cliffhanger because I always wonder what happens to the characters after the story, right? So I'm like, what happens to the dad now that the son is gone, Okay, pause. Want to point into your mouth?
Sure.
Okay.
And did you know that Zoom mutes when you shake the shaker? Like it recognizes that it's a really loud, obnoxious noise, so it mutes it. So anytime you were talking when you were shaking, it got none of that. just for future reference, not that.
I always thought you just muted it.
Nope. Not when we do it with Zoom. My camera now records it. It's
It's
slippery.
not twisty. You just.
I'm trying.
I laugh, but I'm probably no. There you go. I loosened it.
Whatever. Shut up.
So Bradley, we have a couple characters in this. Maybe the ice melted more
Oh, that makes sense.
in this book or in this story. Do you have one that's near and dear to your heart more so than the others?
I think I'm really interested in the monsters, and maybe that's a strange thing, but a lot of times monsters are in the darkness and they're dark themselves and all this kind of stuff. But with this story, the monsters are these kind of bright beasts that are surrounded by glows, and it's in snow. And I really want to spend time with the monsters to make sure I got those right. Something really different, I thought, than what we usually see.
I mean, spoiler, but in the last scene of the story where they're all coming out single file, I was like, ooh. The dad is like sitting on the floor just watching like a dozen of them come out of the room.
Oh yeah. He's like, I lost count. I'm like,
Terrifying, yeah.
Yeah. Like I'd pee myself probably. And all in silence too, right? Which is even creepier, probably.
Yeah. I think in writing, we don't really get to work a lot sometimes with sound because it's such a, you have to be in person to experience sound. And I thought, well, I could try this and see how it works. And as I kept developing it with having so little sound, I thought it was working really well. So it's something I wanted to stick for the end.
And it's definitely creepy, like the movies, The Quiet Place.
Yeah.
In the before times pre-COVID, we saw the first one in theaters, and usually in theaters there's some sort of background noise,
and then when it's like deafening silent,
and so the movie was so quiet that it was like a tomb in the theater, and it added to the experience so much. And so then I was kind of picturing that just utter silence while I was reading the story, and I'm like, yeah, just imagine you're out chopping wood and
Nothing.
Sound.
Yeah.
Like almost like you're in outer space, just nothing.
Yeah. And then being trapped too in the hollow, the trees overhanging, it's just everything is trapped in that area. So yeah, the silence I thought really played a heavy part in the story.
It definitely added to the creepy factor.
Especially because I literally cannot stand silence. Like when I used to have to study, I would go to restaurants just to have that noise because I hate it.
I hate it.
I'm the same way. It scares me. So
like that's why my family's like, you just talk so much. I'm like, no, I just can't stand silence. You guys never have music playing or anything. If you got at least something playing in the background, then I don't feel like I have to fill the silence. But when there's nothing, it's like,
So if we ever had a silent contest, I'd win.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll tell you now.
Silence doesn't bother me unless it's that uncomfortable silence.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like if you feel like, if you're trapped in a car with somebody you don't know very well, and you're not comfortable being silent with each other, and then you feel obligated to just talk and talk and talk and fill the space.
That sounds horrible.
That's when I get diarrhea of the mouth is that type of situation.
Gotcha.
In your book, These Fantastic Lives, they're all short stories. Are they all horror themed or are they across genre?
They all kind of fit in the space of horror in some kind of way. I think largely they're probably more magical realism or weird fiction, but I have 3 or 4 that I would classify as more horror kind of stories. Maybe even one that you could say is fantasy or science fiction, if you're really pushing it. But weird fiction for sure, I think captures most of it.
Weird fiction.
Yeah.
I like it. Just go for it.
I don't know, how to attack this thing.
Sticky. I was a kid who didn't like finger painting.
I'm already.
Here we go.
Oh my God.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay.
Our glass is stuck.
Ooh.
Good.
Wow. I don't even usually like caramel, but
I just want to lick the glass. That's weird. I'm sorry.
it reminds me a little bit of syrup. Syrup, like a watered down syrup, like a tasty syrup, like the kind of mapley-ish
So maple syrup?
Yeah. What other? Oh, I guess you could have unflavored syrups. You're a weirdo.
Okay.
So Bradley, what's your favorite scary movie?
Ooh.
That is a great question. I really love the Conjuring series. I didn't so much like this third one as much as the other two, but I really loved the first one. I thought it was really good for contemporary stuff. I also really like the Haunting of shows, The Haunting of Hill House and Bly Manor. Have you seen those?
So I read that book, was it actually called The Haunting of Hill House? Was that the title? I don't know why I'm asking you. I don't think you read it.
Yes.
Oh, we read it last year.
Yes, we did. So yes, it
Okay,
was,
yeah.
and yes, I did, and yeah.
And that book written I think it was written in the 1920s. I don't know if you read the book, Bradley, but I'm assuming the show is similar. But it creeped me out. And usually when I read older stories, they don't get to me, but that one got to me a little bit.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I like about old horror movies and old like horror stories is it's like set back obviously in the day, but they don't have cell phones. Like a lot of times you're like, come on, this shit wouldn't happen. I mean, unless you're somewhere where there's no reception. I'm like, this shit's so dumb. Like, come on, unless your phone dies. But I mean, like,
Stuff can still happen even if you have a cell
I know,
phone.
but I'm just like some of the stuff, like when they're like running, from their house, like I don't know. Just so I like the old, like Stranger Things, I think worked because the setting was back in the 80s, where if they had done it now, like where someone's like, oh my God, I need to reach them to tell them not to go there. They could have just called their phone, but and it's such a movie trope. You're like, oh, my phone battery died. Oh no. Anyways, sorry, that was just random.
So I have another question for you, Bradley. Speaking of horror movies, if you were going to make In the Hollow a movie or like short story, would you do it live action, clay, animated?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I've never even thought about that. That would be interesting to see it done in clay. I mean, that would be really interesting to see that.
And
So
you're
that's my answer.
I would watch
And
it.
you're not.
So I'd watch it.
I almost pictured it also like anime style.
Yeah.
Like the Castlevania.
Where it's like the tree falls and then it's just like silence across, and then the guy's just kind of like looking like, huh? That's kind of what I was picturing too.
The CGI would have to be really good for it to be live.
Yeah,
So,
you couldn't watch that if it's not good CGI, which would be sad.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like when they CGI'd out Henry Cavill's mustache from the Superman reshoots.
It's so horrible.
They could make built machine Guardians of the Hollow.
The animatronics.
Yeah, that'd be terrifying.
It would be.
I would want that for my house for Halloween. Could you just imagine these big, massive things all lined up on your driveway and you have to walk through them?
Ooh, and if they
To
had
get to
like,
them,
and if they had like the sound, like the soundproof material, so that when you walk up the driveway, it just blocks all the sound.
Ooh. And you get like
Or
some
trick-or-treaters.
fog mist in there with the snow flurries. We have big imaginations. We can never pull something like that off. But we want this.
Our imaginations are like billion-dollar budgets, and
Or skill sets that we have not learned yet.
No.
I should have I don't even know what classes you would take to learn all that shit. I
you
guess
have to go to like
electrician
Yeah,
stuff and
film school. I'm gonna take another sip of this.
this is really good.
So I'm Bradley Sides, the author of Those Fantastic Lives. It comes out October the 1st in bookstores, so please pre-order. If you have more information about me, it's www.bradley-sides.com.
And it's side, SIDES, like the side of a shape or house or et cetera, et cetera.
Ready?
Because it's so slippery. Okay.
And with that, we say, stay lively with your libations.
Oh, wait.
It doesn't clank.
No.
It's too caramely.
It's too
sticky. We could have clanked the bottoms, but that's
No.
all sticky on the bottom too.
Wait.
It's fine.
Okay.
No, we're not struggling.
Your hands are not covered in caramel.
No,
so
it's
you
okay.
can't